All right, welcome back to Mornings on Fox 11. Ryan Radtke here has been the play-by-play man for the University of Nevada football since 2008. And Ryan, I want to dive into the most important thing. First off, it has been 7 months now, and you still have the beard going fully strong. You have committed to it at this point. We talked at the beginning of baseball season, and you weren't sure if he was going to make it past the weekend.
Yeah, it's still going strong. The wife likes it, so it's going to stay for now. That's the important thing.
That
right?
is all that matters, really. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you itch all night long and you can't sleep. The wife likes it. All right, we're going to dive into the less important topics now. Throughout your time, you've seen Colin Kaepernick, Cody Fajardo, Tyler Stewart now. How is it looking based on your perspective of watching these guys play every single game they played going through college?
You know what? It's interesting that if you look at the numbers, you would say Tyler hasn't had a very good year and that he's struggled, especially in comparison to those other two guys that you talked about. But I really think Tyler has played extremely well. You go back and look at last week against Buffalo, he only threw for 90 yards, but then you consider he probably had at least 50 yards taken away on penalties. He threw a couple of great deep balls that guys just, for whatever reason, weren't able to hold on to. I think he's played really well, and I know talking to Nick Rolovich, the offensive coordinator, he's thrilled with what Tyler has done so far. Brian Polian feels the same way. So I think the stats don't exactly tell the story with how good Tyler's been.
Sure, and then also the running game for the Wolfpack this year is amazing. We know how good Don Jackson is. We did an in-depth piece here, Alex Margulies, learning about his past, how great of a person he is, along with how good he is at football. But Butler as well, we saw some amazing stuff this past weekend in Buffalo. The running game in comparison to years past, how does it kind of compare and separate itself from the other teams?
Well, I think it's kind of getting back to where it was a couple of years ago. You know, you go back to those teams, obviously, with Kaepernick and Tawa and Lippincott all doing what they did in 1 year. And then there was a little bit of a period where it wasn't quite the same. But I think what Don and what James have done so far this year, it's starting to resemble some of those teams. Both guys going over 100 yards last week. Butler had a 91-yard run. Don Jackson a 55-yard touchdown run. And what I love about those guys is the relationship they have is so great. They talk about the little brother, big brother. They compete with each other. They help each other. They root for each other. In fact, last week, James Butler has the 91-yard run, and they tried to send Don Jackson in the game for the next play, and Jackson said, I'm not going in. It's his touchdown to score. He ends up getting in the end zone. So it's pretty cool to see the way those guys are feeding off each other, and that's what they want to be. They want to be a team that runs the football.
Sure, absolutely. All right, so we're going to talk about, and I remember Brian Polian saying that in the coaches show this week. That is a really special relationship to have. We're going to talk about something that happened this week, though. Tony Sanchez, head coach for UNLV, saying we refer to Nevada as the University of Reno, Nevada. Those are kind of fighting words around here. What has the reception been? Are people talking about it over at athletics, or are people pumping up about this, or is it just whatever, it doesn't matter?
You know what, I think it's kind of whatever. You know, I don't think anybody's going to respond to it. I don't know why you would go and say something like that, especially for a guy that hasn't even been involved in this rivalry yet. So maybe he can coach a couple of games and win a few games, and then we'll take more seriously what he has to say.
Or maybe just a recent history of kind of a little more balance instead of 9 wins and 1. I mean, the Fremont Cannon, we got to see Fajardo and Brock Hecking last year painted, and we did a whole story on that. That was really special. How important is it for these players? They won't be able to paint it if they win, but to be able to make sure that it stays in Nevada. Do they talk about that leading into this?
Yeah, there's no doubt. That's a huge deal, and it was interesting earlier this week when a lot of the players were asked, hey, when did you kind of figure out what this meant to the community? Because a lot of guys aren't from here. And most of them said 2013 when we lost it. And they said, you know, we figured out people were so upset and everything else. So I think they're very excited about having the opportunity to keep the cannon blue.
Sure, absolutely. All right, favorite touchdown so far this season? Does one pop out in your mind over the last several
I think it would have to be Hassan Henderson's at Texas A&M, the one that I didn't even see. I was worried about the flag coming out for pass interference. I had no idea he reached around the guy and caught it, but it was a great play.
Yeah, all right, so Wolfpack playing UNLV. Coming up this weekend, you can hear Ryan Radtke tell us where your voice will be grazing with our presence over the radio.
ESPN Radio 94.5 FM. Our pregame show starts at 2:30 Saturday afternoon. Kickoff at 4.
All right, you should see Melissa's face when Radtke talks. She just kind of stares and goes, "Oh my gosh, that voice is amazing." Loves that voice. All right, thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Ryan.
Wolfpack playing tomorrow. All right, we're going to send it over to break. We will be right back with Tim coming up on the other side.